From the Oprah Show to the Wall Street Journal, Dr. Ken Druck is widely recognized for his expertise as a grief specialist. He's a pioneer in the field of grief literacy and has received several awards, including the Distinguished Contribution to Psychology. But what makes his perspective especially powerful isn't just decades of research and writing. It's the deeply personal journey he's walked himself.
I wanted to spit in the face of the universe. How could this happen? And God, how could this happen on your watch? How does this make sense? How does this beautiful young woman who has so much to give to the world and to give to life and who's my baby?
Druck lost his 21-year-old daughter suddenly in a tragic crash. In this episode of Grieving Out Loud, he opens up about how he found a way forward and how you too can rediscover joy after unthinkable loss. He also shares everyday tools for coping with grief and for building resilience, no matter where you are on your journey.
People can't understand life itself until you understand what loss is and how it operates in us, in our emotional systems, and how we process loss.
Ken, welcome to Grieving Out Loud. I am thrilled to have you on. I have been in this grief business, I'll call it, I guess I'll call it that, for 7 years now since my daughter died. And you've been in it for at least a couple of decades. Are you 25 years now?
1996 was the year that Jenna passed, and so that's close to 29 years. But isn't it amazing how some parts of grief occur within time? They progress linear, and other parts of grief exist outside of time and beyond time.
Right. I want to dive more into that, but I've listened to you speak. I've listened to you speak to groups. I've read a little bit of your writings, and I've just thought, wow, everything you say is what I have learned too in these last 7 years. And I'm so excited to share your knowledge with our audience. And I think it will really resonate with them. We have so many grieving parents who listen to this.
And I'm so honored and delighted to be with you today. And I love what you're doing. I love the way you're honoring yourself, your life, your family, your daughter, the way you are going on. For me, that's the embodiment of how we go on, of what we do, what we can do. We don't get to play God. We don't get to control the world. We don't get to control even what happens to the most people who are most precious in our lives. But we do get to make some choices. And the choice you've made by doing this is such a beautiful honoring. I'm delighted to be with you today.
In 1996, Ken had earned his doctorate in clinical psychology. His 21-year-old daughter, Jenna, was also on a promising path, ready to build an inspiring career and in the middle of what seemed like the adventure of a lifetime.
I was in the middle of a gloriously wonderful time of life with a daughter who had blossomed into and was awarded one of America's future leaders, was a visionary, amazing young woman who said, "Dad, I know the world's bigger than California and the US, and there's this semester at sea program, and I'd love to go on it." And she was on that ship having the time and experience of her life, traveling from continent to continent, called me from where she was going to be. "Dad, I'm going to be seeing the world's greatest symbol of eternal love, the Taj Mahal. We're going to be going to see that tomorrow. I'm going to wake up, we're going to go to the Ganges, and we're going to see where the wisest people in history go, and people go to die, and babies go to be born." So Jenna never made it to the Taj Mahal. The bus that she was on flipped over, and 4 beautiful young college women died. When I got a call from the White House, and I will never be able to thank Bill Clinton enough for how compassionately he and Hillary helped us, and said, "Please don't go to India to get your daughter. Please let me bring her home to you." So my life ended as I knew it in that moment when the phone rang. and it was acknowledged that Jenna had died. It was a horrible accident. She had died on a dirt road not far from an orphanage near the Taj Mahal. And my life as I knew it was over. I unplugged from what I had been doing as a psychologist, as a speaker. Jenna had actually shared the stage with me all over the world, giving programs with me. We gave a program called the Parent Report Card, where we talked to kids and their parents as part of the Young Presidents organization. And anyhow, so here I was, and it's like, what now? And I talk often about how each one of us and everybody we know is having some kind of a what now moment. Ask anybody and ask ourselves, what's my what now moment? What's happening in my life? And this is the most horrific what now moment because you don't know that there's a way to survive. How am I supposed to go on living? I'm going to have a good meal tonight. I'm going to wear a nice jacket. How am I supposed to possibly go on and function? No less find any source of joy or meaning ever again.
That's a universal feeling, don't you
Yes.
think, for all newly grieving people?
Yeah. We not only lose a child, but we begin to sense that we've lost the world. People are telling us, I started a nonprofit foundation after Jenna died to help families like ours that were suffering horribly, unspeakably. And we used to put something up on the wall, the 10 least sensitive things people said to us. And when people tell us to go on or, hey, she's in a better place or, God needed another angel, or people invoke some kind of psychobabble or religious babble, excuse me, because I don't happen to believe that anybody knows with 100% certainty what God is or who God is or how God's running the show.
Or what happens after we die?
Or what happens after we die. So I don't think that's been defined definitively. Many of us find faith, and it's our greatest hope and wish and desire. This is the way it turns out. This is the way it goes. But we don't know. And we enter that, especially if we're people who live with certainty, we're cast into a crisis of uncertainty. So anyhow, I was. I wanted to spit in the face of the universe. That was not everybody gets angry. Everybody's different. But I wanted to spit in the face of the universe. How could this happen? And God, how could this happen on your watch? How does this make sense? How does this beautiful young woman who has so much to give to the world and to give to life and who's my baby, my beloved daughter, how does this work? How could this possibly have been allowed? And for me, it took being honest about that anger until eventually I could see a tear in the eye of God. I could see and feel and sense, even though I don't know, but I could imagine and believe that there was a tear in the eye of God, that God isn't the puppeteer. So it forced me to reconsider every construction I had about what a higher power is, what God is. God the puppeteer watching over all of us in every moment? Or is God the force of love and goodness?
I think the same thing when it comes to Emily's death, even though she died in a different way from fentanyl poisoning.
Yes.
It wasn't her choice to die, but it wasn't God's choice for her to die either. A lot of people said to me after she died, "Oh, well, everything happens for a reason." And I'm like, "No, no, no, no. People did this. Someone chose to put fentanyl in the drug that she
Right.
took that day. And it's an evil thing. And it's something that happened. And there's a lot of chaos in the world, like a bus flipping over, right? And it's not that God causes those things or wants those things to happen, but we do have free will and people do things."
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And, let's take some time instead of jumping into certainty to calm our unknowingness or our doubts or whatever. Let's give ourselves time to think about, to process. And for me, my processor had never had to bear such a sorrow. So giving myself, and as a guy, I'm trained to figure stuff out and fix it, compartmentalize emotions. And my first book in 1983, when I went on Oprah as Dr. Ken, was called The Secrets Men Keep. It was about how men construct their world. And it was about the work that I had been doing in the psychology of men. But as a man, there was never a level of emotional literacy, giving myself the language and the permission to be able to say, ouch, or I am in so much pain. I don't know if I can bear it, or I am so tempted to numb this pain, to hide it, deny it, repress it, outrun it, outbusy it, to shut
Mm.
myself down. And yet the healthy thing for me to do, because I have a wife, I have another daughter, I have a life to live, I have clients, I have people who depend on me, and the story of my life has not ended. What am I going to do? It's my what now moment. And we all have one after a challenge, a change, even an opportunity or a loss. And not only just a loss of somebody who died, who we loved, but a living loss, a divorce, an estranged child, somebody moves away, living losses. We're grieving. We can even grieve the loss of our younger years as we age. And we're grieving, what is aging? What's the biggest challenge of aging? It's grieving the loss of our younger self. Well, I used to be able to do that, or I don't look the same. How come I'm changing in a way that I don't like or that isn't as popular?
Sometimes I think life is just about loss because we end up losing everything in the end. We lose our life. But
Yeah,
as time goes by, we lose, as you age, you lose so much. You lose people that you love, and then eventually you die. Life just is
yeah,
constant loss.
yeah, yeah. And it's processing what does loss mean to me? And the last chapter in the How We Go On book is called Ken's Moonshot, coming to terms with death. How do we come to terms with death? Why is that even important? Shouldn't we avoid that? Shouldn't we run as fast as we can?
Yeah, but doesn't the loss of a child make you forces you to think about your own death,
Yeah,
right?
yes. Or to put up walls to avoid it even more because it's
Mm.
now inescapable and we feel it's inconsolable. So, what we do with it, how we meet the moment, our what now moment after the death of a child, is critical. Do we try to run from it? Do we put our foot on our throat and try to force ourselves to grieve faster and to recover and, to do all these things that really we're not ready for, that we're not being honest with ourselves, and to hide and deny our sorrow rather than getting the support, the love, the understanding, and giving it to ourselves compassionately, giving ourselves what we need to begin healing, to begin clearing that path forward. And for all of us, it's different. The first honoring for me was do something good in my daughter's name. And so I started the Jenna Druck Foundation. And what was the Jenna Druck Foundation? Well, it would help families who had lost a child, who were in that unspeakable moment. And because there weren't other resources, everywhere I looked to get help for myself, I was disappointed. I went to see a psychologist who everybody recommended. It's like, it took you 5 minutes, I said to him. It took you 5 minutes to start pathologizing my grief. You
Hmm.
know, please, if you do that, I'm going to write you a check and walk out of your office. You're supposed to be understanding. You're supposed to be compassionate. I'm trying to process something that my system isn't ready to process. I need your help. Please just listen to me and try to, we had a saying at the Jenna Druck Foundation, compassion is your pain in my heart. Compassion is your ability to imagine for a second what it might be like, this unimaginable moment, to be going on with life, but without somebody like our oldest child, without Jenna, without Emily. It's a moment that's difficult for most of us to imagine. We want to run like hell to get away from it because it's unbearable. But summoning the courage and the strength and the patience and the support that we need to take steps forward, even small steps, like walk to the corner. We talk about, start moving again. Well, even if that means 10 steps to the corner and back, that's a start. That's good. We talk about walking in nature. even if it means finding the closest park and just sitting on a bench with surrounded by trees, something green and something in the natural world that might speak to us about loss, about how trees die and other trees grow in their place, and the birds flying through. And nature has a tremendous amount to teach us about loss and change. And so you're right. People can't understand life itself until you understand what loss is and how it operates in us, in our emotional systems, and how we process loss.
Are you ready to protect the next generation from the dangers of substance use? Emily's Hope has created a comprehensive K through 12 substance use prevention curriculum designed to educate, empower, and equip students with the tools they need to make healthy choices. Our age-appropriate lessons start in kindergarten and build through high school, using science, real stories, and interactive learning to help kids understand their bodies, brains, and risk of drug use. We're already reaching thousands of students across multiple states, and we're just getting started. Visit emilyshopeedu.org to learn more and share our curriculum with your school administrators and counselors. At Emily's Hope, we believe prevention begins with education. Let's work together to keep our kids safe. Even though I was a reporter for 35 years, I shouldn't think bad things can only happen to other people. I've seen bad things. I mean, why can't they happen to me or to you, right?
Yep.
But we all, before this tragedy strikes us, we think somehow it happens to other people and we have so much more control
Yeah.
over things
Yeah.
than what we actually
And
do.
life's going to be kind of fair. We make the
Yeah.
assumption
Yeah.
that life's going to be fair, that there's a way that things operate, and we can connect the dots. And if we do good things, then good things will happen. And so when this happens, it absolutely, not only do we lose somebody we love, in yours and my case, a child, but we lose the world. We lose the perspective, the ways that we've constructed everything from how all of this works. And we need to reconstruct. For me, it was, where's my daughter? She's not here anymore. Where is my
Yes.
daughter? So our picture of how all this works after death, our picture of a God or a higher power or a creator or karma or whatever it is that we formerly believed were the operating principles of how life works and what death is. We have to push the reset button because it all has to be redone. And so we're not only in a crisis of sorrow, we're in a crisis of profound confusion because everything has to be rethought and reconsidered, recalibrated.
Thank you for saying that because I haven't really heard anybody put it exactly like you just did before. Because certainly I went through that. The whole order of the world is turned upside down. The
Yep.
rug is really pulled out from under you, and people want to tell you. And I mean, I love my best friend. She's amazing, but she always just says, Emily's in a better place. She's in heaven, and everything's so wonderful for her. And I don't know that. I mean, I feel like there's so much I don't know. And I think I've gotten more comfortable with the not knowing. But it was hard at first to
Yes.
feel that way. I didn't wanna feel that way.
Well, you and I have spent our adult lives knowing and learning and acquiring, a way of seeing the world, of relating to people, of relating to this life. And suddenly that's obliterated. It's like that no longer makes sense. Nothing seems to make sense. The dots don't connect. So we're in a crisis of having to reformulate how to live out the rest of whatever days we have, how to possibly go on. And in the How We Go On book, I constructed 8 honorings. Here are 8 things we need to do to survive the death of a child. And, one of them is to allow ourselves to not know. To not know. It's like, I don't know anything. I don't know how this works. We're flying on something that's less than a grain of sand through the universe. Now we have Neil deGrasse Tyson telling us we're not just in a universe, we're in universes.
Okay, I can't wrap my brain around half the things that he says, but I'm fascinated by what he says. But yes,
But it
right.
gives us a picture of it's okay not to know. How could we possibly know?
As a journalist, I always want to know everything. Like that was my job to know and to find things out. But there is the unknowable out there.
So dancing with the unknown, living with the unknown, bearing the confusion of the unknown is one of the critical ways that things that we get to have to learn. Often, people say, give me something concrete. What can I do? And I say, catch yourself with your foot on your throat. Impatience, demanding to know with certainty how all this works, pressure, criticism, going back over the life of our child, which most of us knew, and saying, oh, what I could have done and should have done and didn't do. We review our whole life and their whole life and taking our foot, catching ourselves with that foot on our throat and moving it down to our heart. And instead of impatience, showing ourselves patience, kindness, self-compassion, support, encouragement, faith, courage, and understanding that how could I be feeling any different? I'm already feeling. So a level of kindness and acceptance of what we're going through, whatever stage we're going through it.
I don't think most of us are taught self compassion
No,
ever.
no. We have that harshly self-critical voice that's very developed that, prosecutes us. We act like the prosecutor in a courtroom with no judge, no jury, and no defense attorney. We just accumulate evidence and wave that admonishing finger in our own faces. How come you're still feeling? How come you haven't done that? Or why didn't you do this? Or all these questions that really aren't questions, they're messages. They're questions that mask as messaging, criticism, admonishment, condemnation. Whatever it is, it's not what's going to help us heal. It's not what's going to clear the path forward for us to live out whatever days we have in a way that's meaningful, purposeful, even possibly joyful again. And so the organic way to go forward and to rise from the sorrow, the unspeakable sorrow, is often to catch ourselves up here. It's even catching ourselves saying, look at you, you're so sad. What a downer. Who would want to be with you anymore? You are such a downer. All you think about, all you talk about and think about is the death of your daughter. Who would want to be with somebody like you? So instead of that criticism, saying, of course, you're going to be triggered. You're going to be walking down the street 20 years later and somebody's going to have your daughter's hair, or they're going to say something, or a song's going to come on. Something's going to happen that triggers a sorrow in you. Give yourself, with your hand on your heart, you give yourself permission to allow it to surface, to be respected, and to allow yourself those moments of sorrow, because the greatest, most dangerous myth, grief, is closure, is that we feel like, come on now, close that book. Come on, get
Yeah.
on with it. Get over it.
And society wants you to close that book.
Yes. Society, we live in a grief illiterate society. I have the privilege I train physicians at medical school, University of California. And the most difficult thing for them to transition from is from the figure it out and fix it mode of living and thinking and solving problems to the being with and just allowing, being with their patients who are grieving, not, biting their tongue, not giving advice, not coming up with solutions, not invoking psychological or medical or religious, ideas and thinking that that's going to do it. That's going to make somebody better. It's going to help them heal. They're going to get over it. If they ask for that information, then maybe they're ready and open to receive it. But what most people need is someone to be with them, to be a healing presence.
From training physicians to counseling clients and writing several books, Dr. Druck has guided thousands of people through the healing process. Some of his work has even involved high-profile cases, including supporting families who lost loved ones in school shootings. So, when you've helped after these horrific tragedies like 9/11 or Sandy Hook, and they're just so major, it's not just the loss of one life and the way that some of these things have played out. Do you see any similarities in those kinds of things or with just individual grief?
Yes, I think we're all different and we're all in some ways similar. All of our hearts are shattered, whether we're saying something, speaking, crying. Sometimes the silent person in our family is the one who's shattered in the most severe way. They can't even speak. They can't dare to acknowledge an emotion because they feel like they'll pull the plug on it and they'll just emotionally bleed to death. Or they don't have words. They can't put into words what they're feeling, what they're going through. And they also have very little permission. When I talked about men's issues, I said the least utilized word in the male vocabulary starts with an H. Help. It's prohibited for men to ask for help. I don't need anybody else's help. What do you think? I'm weak? I'll be demoted on the male scale to a lesser of a man status if I openly admit to the fact that I need help right now. I am so sad. I don't know what to do. I don't know. I'm shutting down. I'm afraid I'm going to lose my wife. I'm shutting down. I'm dumbing myself down to cope with this. I'm not being the father that I need to be to my other children if I have other children. I can't function at work. I'm going to lose my job. I'm not going to be able to support my family financially. I'm losing my clients. I'm losing people's confidence. I'm being demoted. I'm grieving out. I'm in this grief coma and I'm grieving out of all the things that have been most meaningful, the things that really matter to me. But I don't know what to do now. And it's at that point of unknowingness that we can say, I need help. I need to turn on Grieving Out Loud. I need to follow this program because I'm learning when people come on and they talk about what they've gone through and what they've discovered and what they still don't know. They humble themselves and say, here's what I haven't figured out. It gives me permission to be going through what I'm going through. It's my tribe right now. It's the people that are constructively moving forward, even one breath at a time.
And the one thing I noticed is that so many people are now doing something, and not usually it's moms. So we're talking about men there, and I have had a couple of people ask me, "Why don't more dads come on the show?" We have had some dads, and I think that our society is allowing people to speak more freely about things, and men.
We should do a dads program, just what it means for dads to be grieving and invite people to call in, dads to call in and say, the first show I did with Oprah, she called and said, Ken, you got this great book. Come on, I need to get more men. And I said, I'm not going to do your show unless you have an all male audience.
Oh, was that? Did you say that was 1983?
Yep. Yep. And I had big hair and Oprah had big hair and she had an all male audience that she had trouble rounding up, but that's what the first show we did.
Do you think that things have changed for men since 1983?
I think they've changed tremendously in some ways. Like my son-in-law, I have an earth daughter and an angel daughter. My earth daughter married the most wonderful man in the world. He's also the best father in the world. And he is the hands-on dad. I mean, he's an attorney, so he has, clients and a job and a work world, but he has prioritized his children in a way that is precious to me. It makes my heart sing. And my nephew, who's a deputy DA in San Diego, he's one of the best fathers in the world. And I see a lot of men their age who have become what I call hands-on fathers. They take the time to really understand and spend time with their children, not lecturing them, not, protecting and providing and feeling like that's really what our kids need that, but that's all they need. But really being with them, getting to know their kids and letting their kids get to know them and being partners with the mom, even whether they're still married or they're divorced or whatever, but partnering with the mom of these children.
But when it comes to grief, I think a lot of men, even though I hear what you're saying, I've got a younger neighbor right next door to me who is a wonderful dad. I see him outside with his kids playing constantly. And you didn't used to see that, years ago with fathers. But when it comes to loss, I think a lot of time men just think, I was supposed to be the protector. I was supposed to,
I failed.
and so I failed. Yes. Yes.
No question about it. That's part of what happens. We failed. We blame ourselves. We enter that courtroom where there's only the prosecuting attorney and there's no judge, jury, or defense attorney, and we prosecute ourselves. How could you have let your daughter go to India? How could your daughter have gotten a hold of fentanyl? Why was she doing drugs? In other words, other people say stupid things and accusatory things, but it's the critic in us that brings us down, that hurts us the most. And when we start practicing kindness instead of cruelty, when we start understanding and stop blaming, I call it the torture chamber of guilt. And I tell people, you are in the torture. You can't resist. You open that door and you go in. There's no redeemable value in the torture chamber of guilt. There's no redemption. There's nothing that gets accomplished. Even blame yourself, be guilty, but figure out how to forgive yourself and stop irrationally connecting the dots as I did the first year. How could I have let my daughter go on this trip? How come I didn't know that they were going to fake overbooking a flight and send them on a bus, one of the most treacherous roads in the world, where 1,600 people die every year? How could I not have drilled down? How arrogant and unknowing was I to not prepare my daughter for this trip? At the Jenna Druck Foundation, I had a mom come in and say, Ken, I sent my daughter to the 7-Eleven to get milk. It was 2 blocks away. I didn't know there'd be street racers in front of the
Oh,
7-Eleven, that she would be hit and die. So don't tell me that you should, about your daughter 10,000 miles away. Stop blaming yourself. And it's like, thank you for permission for me to start learning how not to implicate myself, how to put the stop sign on the torture chamber of guilt and not go in there.
right. That is such good advice. And I think the other thing I noticed is when I started Emily's Hope in 2019, there were only a handful of organizations out there like mine. Fentanyl wasn't as widely recognized or people weren't talking about it as much. And now it seems like every parent starts an organization now, which I always say it takes all of us parents to come
Yes.
together to work on ending this crisis. But I think also there is just a need, especially it seems like it's a lot of moms, and sometimes it's the mom and the dad, or sometimes it's the dad, but it's a lot of moms who start these. And I think as women, we just see this senseless death and we have to do something.
Yes. Yes. So the dads, the other thing that dads do besides blame themselves and fail is believe that their job is to worry about everybody else and to deny their own pain and to live in fear that they're going to lose everything now, that they've lost themselves. They can't be the man that their wife needs them to be. They can't be the father that their children need to be. They can't be the boss or the worker that their coworkers or employee expects them and has asked them to be. At the Jenna Druck Foundation, we used to give a program, and I still give it, called the Compassionate Workplace. And it's a 1-hour lunch program where I go in and I talk about here's what support is and here's what support isn't. The do's and don'ts of grief support. And if people want, they can find that on my website too.
And we're supposed to check our humanity at the door when we go into work. And we talked about reporters and, having to put on a mask or whatever. But when you walk into work, you're supposed to check all of your baggage at the door, no matter what that is, and work. And so when you say compassionate workplace, I'm like, I don't think there's too many of those around, but there's a few. There's a few. And hopefully there will be more.
As one of the nation's strongest financial organizations, First Premier Bank and Premier Bank Card have the strength to do good. We support nearly 700 organizations and nonprofits. Our employees give more than 30,000 volunteer hours annually. And we are continually seeking ways to make South Dakota an even better place to live. It's the Premier Way. First Premier Bank and Premier Bank Card.
We need to help when people have suffered. We have schools. Kids need to go back to school. The brothers and sisters, the parents, the teachers, the community that's affected. We need to go into the schools. That's what we did with Sandy Hook. That's what I've done in Columbine, at so many of the schools where there have been shootings. We need to breathe. We need breathing room. We need to have conversations. We need to acknowledge. We need to humanize what's going on and how people are affected. And the best question I ask is, can we talk for a little while about things that we're doing that are helping us? Can we share the wealth of what we're doing that's helping? And somebody will say, I'm listening to Enya, or I'm listening to whoever, or there's music. I'm listening to Beth Nielsen Chapman, a wonderful singer-songwriter. She wrote This Kiss. She lost her husband. She wrote a beautiful, beautiful album. We share with each other the wealth of what we know. That's what we did after 9/11. That's what we did after Sandy Hook. So it's so important to help people ease, operative word is ease, their way back into the world. Yes, true that the old normal is gone. Living in a new normal. The old life is gone as we knew it. But to make our way and start making our way into the new life that we're being challenged to live, we need conversation. We need other people's ideas. We need to talk about what we're experiencing. I have a meditation I do every morning that I think you might enjoy. I do a walk every morning in nature, and it's my mental health walk. And it's my walk to help me prioritize what really matters in that day. So I start the walk by asking myself 4 questions. First question is, what's weighing most heavily on my heart today? Today. Am I thinking about Jenna? Did I get a call from one of her friends who's running a company now? And that's what she would be doing. And my heart is hurting. The second question is, what's making my heart sing today? What light is there in the world? Is there good news from a war zone or a place where people are suffering? Is there something wonderful that my grandson was able to do on his soccer team? Is my daughter smiling because she's been raising 2 kids in the COVID era and the challenges are enormous? Did she just get away with her husband and renew their love for each other? What is making my heart sing? Third question is, what does today afford me an opportunity to let go of a little bit more? Something I'm carrying around heavily, some weight that I'm bearing. What could I let go of a little bit? A little bit. What might that be? And the last question that I usually ask, and I change the questions up sometimes, is what could I celebrate in gratitude today? What are the blessings that remain in my life? My sorrow has been so big that I've kind of learned how to take them for granted. I live in a place, I don't have missiles flying over my house. I have a roof over my head. I have a wife that I love. I have grandchildren. My daughter is healthy and okay. Her husband fell out of heaven. I get to meet people like you and be on your podcast. I get to touch the hearts. Hopefully, my prayer is that I'm touching the hearts of people who are watching this podcast. Those are the blessings. And all these things clear the path forward for me to prioritize what's most important as I go forward into the day.
I love that. That's a beautiful practice. So, what's weighing on my heart today? What makes my heart sing? What can I let go of
Little bit.
a little bit? And what can I be grateful for? And I always say gratitude is the best antidote. If there is, it's not really an
Yeah.
antidote. That's the wrong word.
No, that's
But
a great word.
for grief. I always
Yes.
say, and I discovered that early on. And some days I could only be grateful for my breath, right? I mean, even though I have had more to be grateful for, I couldn't think of anything else. So I'd be like, okay, I'm grateful I'm breathing. I'm grateful I have breath. And
Yes.
I think that is very helpful.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful practice. And I think that will benefit a lot of
Yeah.
our listeners too. If you'd like to learn more about Dr. Druck's programs or books, you can find links in the show notes. While you're there, we'd be grateful if you'd take a moment to rate and review this episode and share it with friends or family who could use it. You'll also find links to other Grieving Out Loud episodes we think you'll enjoy or find helpful. And I started talking about all these moms, mostly who have started organizations, or families who have started organizations. And we all say the one thing we want to do is stop it from happening to somebody else.
Yes.
And I always say over and over again on this podcast, our listeners are probably tired of hearing it, that helping others has helped me the most
Yes.
with my grief.
That's the third honoring. The third honoring is do something good in their name.
Yes.
And that could be as simple as lighting a candle on their
Right.
birthday. It could be as complicated as doing a podcast or running a nonprofit foundation, and have the 1,000 moving parts that become a part of your life when you take that on.
Not everybody has to do that. That's what I say.
Yeah.
That isn't necessarily for everybody.
So doing something good in their name. There's one other thing I want to share that I want to make sure people understand, because it's so important to us finding the strength and courage and understanding to go on, is to understand paradox, that we're living in a world, it's not an either or world. I gave a speech and I talked about how paradoxically my daughter is gone. When her body came back from India, I was with her. She was no longer there. I could feel that. I could sense it. I could know it. But I know she's gone. And she's never left my side. Both are true. We go
Right.
from living in an either or world. We torture ourselves trying to figure out what's the truth. In a world where some things both are true. People ask me how I am after all these years, and as they say, am I going to be better? Does it get better? I say, no, it gets different.
Right.
It's different. It never gets better.
But to live with the paradox.
But to live with the paradox, because somebody said, tell me what the most important thing you've learned is. I said, the most important thing is that I'm broken. If you look deeply into my eyes, you'll see a brokenness. My heart is shattered. Even after all these years, I'm so sad and so sorry that Jenna didn't get to live out her life. It breaks my heart. And that has gone on. I'm broken and I'm whole. I'm one of the most whole people you'll ever meet. I understand what really matters. I've come to terms with piece by piece with death. So I encourage people to find some measure of peace about dying, about the nature of life itself, that we pass, we come here. We have this incredible gift. How did this happen? My God, I'm conscious. I'm awake. I get to see colors and beauty. There are falcons that in the last couple of days have been flying right outside off my deck because I live near the beach. I get to see falcons. I got 21 years with my daughter, Jenna. I have all these years with my other daughter and my grandchildren. How blessed. How blessed am I? And you said, before you said gratitude is the antidote. When people say, how can I come to terms with death? It's gratitude. Gratitude is the antidote in part. It's one of the antidotes to the fear and terror that we feel about dying. The unknowingness of what's going to happen, and does it all end, and do I turn to dust? And, it's like gratitude. It's finding the gratitude for the ride that we've been on, privilege, the miracle that we got time in this life to do what we did and to have the joy that we've had.
And I would also say, Ken, that we can be grateful for the suffering, not for the deaths of our daughters, both at 21 years old, not for that. We're not grateful that our daughters, but we can be grateful for the suffering because It molds us and shapes us and makes us more human.
Yes. And it's how we survive. If we didn't
Right.
suffer, I often give parents a list. I say, would you sign this paper or this paper? This paper, I'm going to cut all the nerves to your love for your daughter or son, or your husband or wife, whoever died that you love. I'm going to sever the nerves, and you're going to go on. You're not going to feel the love, but you won't suffer. You won't have these tsunamis coming through anymore. Or you can sign this, which is that your sorrow will live inside of you, perhaps forever. You will experience it. You will have to learn how to manage it. You will have to learn how to flip it into something constructive. But you're going to continue to feel sadness about what happened. And you sign this one. Which one are you going to sign? And 100% of parents say, I'll sign that one. I'll bear the sorrow. It is going to mold me, as you've so beautifully pointed out. It's going to help mold me, but it's also part of my survival. I need to process. I need to allow a voice and a constructive expression.
And we choose that. We would all choose that because to experience the love and
Yeah.
the joy that our child brought us for those 21 years or however long
Yeah.
we had with our children.
And that's the
And
fourth
to-
honoring, by the way, is to allow myself the love that never dies.
right. It's still here.
Permission to have a spiritual, I can't find a better word, but a spiritual relationship with my daughter who died. That means the love that never died gets expressed in both directions. I can imagine feeling her hand on my face, calling me daddy. I can imagine when I go in the closet to put on a shirt, her saying, Dad, you can't wear that shirt. That shirt's got to go. I hate it. And I tell her I love her.
Yes.
And
I tell Emily I love her all the time.
all the time. And I don't know where that I love you goes, but
Right.
I don't care that I don't know. I'm betting my faith that perhaps it finds its way to her heart and her smile, her angel heart and her angel smile. And I'm going to keep doing it. The fourth honoring is to allow the expression of the love that never dies, to create a spiritual relationship, because the phone's not going to ring and they're not coming home and we're not going to see them again and be able to experience them as we've known them. And that's a lot. But how do we go on? Well, those are some of the things.
Well, that's just beautiful. We will end on that note, and I will encourage people to check out the show notes for your book, How We Go On. Like I said, I'm going to start giving that to everybody I know who suffered a recent loss. I like to bring someone a token, a book, or something that I feel like I'm giving them a little bit of help, right? Because you don't always know how to help people, but I think your book is a beautiful, beautiful thing. And I thank you for writing it, and I thank you for coming on the podcast, and I hope you'll return.
I would be honored, and I'm honored by your generosity in inviting me into this sacred place of sharing.
And thank you for joining us for this episode of Grieving Out Loud. We truly hope something you heard today brought a little light or comfort to your journey. Again, we posted links to other conversations about grief and healing in our show notes. Thanks again for listening and allowing us to walk alongside of you. Until next time, wishing you faith, hope, and courage. This podcast is produced by Casey Wannenberg King and Kaylee Fitz.